Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. In today's video, we demonstrate how to turn a manual-centric process that runs every quarter into a highly streamlined process that only requires human-in-the-loop for critical review and decision-making, leveraging the capability from agentic AI workflow. Given the length of the demo, the video will be separated into two parts, and this is the first part. In the business world, companies often rely on human resources to execute recurring processes that involve back-and-forth email communication, manual follow-ups, review of material, performing repeating analysis, scheduling meetings, drafting meeting minutes, archiving documentation, etc. activities. Given the nature of human execution, such processes can be both workload-intensive and mentally tiresome to perform. A hypothetical example of such process is a quarterly request for quote or RFQ exercise to a company's product suppliers. The current process is manual and is composed of 5 major steps. Each quarter, the company's procurement analysts will email the company's suppliers to request for quote on certain product. The analysts need to coordinate when to send the email and what is a common deadline so they can follow up and gather a response to proceed to next steps. As the analysts monitor the progress of supplier response, they may either need to answer follow-up questions from the suppliers or send reminder emails to chase suppliers. The waiting and multiple iterations with the suppliers are one of the key pain points. Once a supplier sends in a new product price and the product's functionalities, the analyst will review if the material meets the company's standard. If it passes the quality check, the analyst will archive the response in a designated shared folder. When all the supplier quotes are collected, the analysts will analyze which supplier provides the best price versus product functionality and propose a winner to the procurement manager for review. Once the manager agrees to the proposal, it also gets archived in a designated shared folder. The analysts will then coordinate with the company's senior management's calendar to schedule a review meeting for final decision-making. Given senior management's calendars are usually busy, manual coordination of the meeting is also slow and painful. Then finally, after the meeting, the decision of best offer will be minuted by one of the analysts and gets signed off by the procurement manager, after which it gets archived. The visual flowchart shows the complexity and iterative nature of the manual process, and the red flags are where critical human decision-making is needed. We will demonstrate later how the automated AI workflow keeps such a human-in-the-loop checkpoint. And not surprisingly, all the pain points we mentioned earlier, such as time delays, meeting coordination challenges, manual analysis, documentation, and archiving, should sound familiar if your company also has a similar process. Now let's walk through how an automated workflow with AI can drastically streamline this tedious process. For the demo, we use the AI+n8n platform to showcase how it can be implemented in practice. The workflows are organized around the 5 major steps we described earlier, and we will go through the first 2 steps in this video. Besides the use of AI+n8n, we also use Jira to keep track of major steps. For the demo in this video, I've already created a set of Jira tickets for a hypothetical Q4 process. The top-level ticket is an epic ticket where the summary field is set to the current process name. It then contains multiple child tickets organized by steps, each step representing a group of activities that the AI+n8n workflow will automate. The labels field will be used by AI+n8n to query the group of connected tickets to perform automation. The external email field represents the person AI+n8n needs to send email to or is expecting to receive email from. The archive folder points to Google Drive folders to archive necessary documentation. The expected due date is when the suppliers are supposed to respond with price quotes, and the last chase date is used by AI+n8n to automatically send out follow-up emails. The description associated with the Step 1 Jira ticket contains the context that AI+n8n AI model will use to automatically generate the RFQ initiation email. We will go through how AI instruction utilizes this description when we cover the main workflows. On an AI+n side, before we get into the main workflows, I want to show some supplementary setups leveraged in this demo. In the data table setup, I created a process demo table to store the current process name and status. This is used by the workflow schedulers or triggers to either proceed with work or be on a holding pattern. We will discuss more how this table is used in later part of the video. Separately, I also created a subworkflow which is used to query Jira tickets. This is used by the main workflows to find Jira tickets for different steps or status. This subworkflow starts with an execute subworkflow trigger which takes 3 parameters. The child filter represents the step in the label's Jira field, which can be step 1, 2, etc. The parent filter represents the top epic ticket summary field. This allows the setup to be able to handle different quarters process runs, and the ticket status represents the Jira ticket status field. The first Jira node after the execution trigger looks for the parent epic ticket corresponding to the current process, e.g. Q4 process. Once the parent ticket is found, the next Jira node finds the child tickets associated with the current process, based on the input status and label provided. The node returns a set of fields which are parsed and returned as JSON objects using the final code node. You can think of this subworkflow as a reusable function shared among the main workflows. Now back to the main workflows. The first step is the automated RFQ initiation. The user will type in a command such as start Q4 process in a chat window. The workflow will kick off and automatically email all the suppliers specified in the Jira tickets with an AI-generated email to request for latest product price and functionalities. Once the email is sent, the corresponding Jira ticket status will move to awaiting response. The first node in this set is a chat trigger node in N8N where the user can enter his command. Following it is an AI agent node. The AI agent is connected with a Gemini chat model as the brain. I use Pro 2.5 with a temperature of 0.1 and top P parameter of 0.4. In simple terms, these parameters are used to balance accuracy versus creativity in the large language models. In general, setting the parameters with lower values guides Gemini to focus more on accuracy of its output. The agent is also set up with a data table tool, which allows it to update the database table. Here we want the process demo table you saw earlier to be updated with activated process status when the quarterly process kicks off. We use observe for the operation, which is a convenient feature offered by N8N. If there's already a process record existed in the process demo table, the record will get updated with new value. Otherwise, new record will be inserted into the table. We will let the AI agent to automatically decide the value for the current process and current process status fields. Now the AI agent is instructed to parse the user chat command, and based on the command, figure out what the current process is and whether the user wants to activate a process or end the process. The prompt specifies the task and tool the AI agent should use and instructs what output is expected. Note the highlight for process name, which will be used by the next code to pass to the rest of the workflow. The third node is a code node which parses out the current process name from the AI agent's response. The workflow then calls the Jira child subworkflow with the current process to find step 1 child tickets with a TODO status. These tickets represent all the suppliers that the workflow need to send out the RFQ email. Now, as there are multiple suppliers, we use the loop node from N8N to iterate through all of them. For each of the suppliers, we add an AI node and ask it to generate a RFQ email. The instruction asks AI to consider the Jira tickets description field as context when drafting the email. It also asks AI to mention the deadline obtained from the Jira ticket. It asks the output to be a JSON object, which contains both a subject and body attribute. Once the AI node produces the subject and body email, we then add a Gmail node to send the email to the supplier. The to field of the Gmail node uses the recipient email address from the Jira ticket, while the subject and body came from the previous AI node. For demo purpose, I also added my email into the CC line so I can show you what these emails look like. The last node in this loop is the Jira update node. Based on the key of the supplier's Jira ticket, we update the last chase date of the step to current timestamp. This field is a custom field in Jira, hence you see the field name looking like a code rather than the last chase date field you see in Jira's dashboard display. This last chase date is used in the step 2 workflow when an automated scheduler uses it to check whether to send follow-up emails. The final Jira update node connects back to the beginning of the loop node so the loop can go through all the suppliers. Now we will run a test to show how step 1 execution in N8N looks like. I click the open chat icon and type in start Q4 process and hit enter. You can now see the AI agent node gets triggered and activated the process. Once all the step 1 supplier Jira tickets are found, the AI model will generate and send RFQ email to each of the suppliers, and the Jira status gets moved to awaiting response and last chase date updated. The loop continues 3 times before it finishes, as the demo is set up with 3 supplier examples. Now let me show you how the AI auto-generated RFQ emails look like. This email correctly picked up the supplier information from the Jira tickets description field as it addresses to the recipient. The deadline is also included in the email title and body. Similarly, the other 2 emails also properly picked up the context from the supplier's respective Jira tickets and addressed to the right recipient, and the deadline is also clearly stated in the email, as designed. Once the RFQ email initiation is done, we proceed to step 2, which is about automatic follow-up workflow. Rather than human wait and manually chase for response, a scheduled trigger is set up to check if the suppliers have responded with price quote consistent with our deadline requirement. Since the scheduled triggers always run throughout the year, we only want it to do real work when the current process cycle is activated. This is what these 3 nodes are for. If the current process is active, the workflow finds all the step 1 awaiting response Jira tickets. For each of the suppliers that we send the RFQ email to, the workflow checks if any new email from the supplier was received since the last chase date. If there's a new email, the workflow does nothing in step 2. A parallel Gmail trigger run in step 3 will pick up this new email. We will go through that in step 3 part of the demo. If the supplier hasn't sent any new email since the last chase date, the workflow further checks if the supplier is past due against the previously communicated deadline. Depending on whether the supplier is past due, the workflow automatically generates 2 different chaser emails with different tone. If the supplier is past due, the tone will be more demanding, and I, as the company contact, gets copied on that chasing email. Otherwise, AI will use a softer reminder tone to follow up with the supplier on progress. Once the follow-up emails are sent, the last node is the Jira update node to update the last chase date field, which makes the workflow ready for the next scheduled trigger run. Now let's go through the workflow node setup details. The scheduled trigger node can be set to run on days, hours, minutes, etc., which is quite flexible. The find active process is a data table node in n8n. I use it to see if the process demo table contains any process record. The code node following it parses the process name and status if the record exists in the database. The if node then flags whether there's an activated process going on. This mechanism saves the scheduler from running the whole workflow if there's no active process in progress. If there's an active process in progress, we expect to see awaiting response tickets generated from Step 1 workflow. Here the Jira child node takes Step 1 as child filter, active process name as parent filter, and queries all awaiting response status tickets. We use a loop node to iterate through all such results. For each of the awaiting response ticket, we add a Gmail get mail node to find all the new emails received from the particular supplier, the sender, after the last chase date. The next if node checks if new email is received by examining the existence of new email IDs. If no new email is found, the following if node checks if the supplier is already past due, by comparing current time versus the deadline specified in the Jira ticket. If a past due is found, the workflow branches into a demanding tone chaser email mode. It launches an AI node to draft a demanding request for response email. The AI instruction includes the context, deadline, tone, etc. information and outputs a subject and body. If the supplier is not past due, then the branch will ask a separate AI node to draft a soft and polite reminder email. The workflow then proceeds to send the chaser email to the supplier. If the past due case, not only the supplier gets the chaser, I am also copied on the email, which is to ensure the company gets notification of supplier overdue. In the regular soft tone reminder, only the supplier gets that email. After all the branches, the supplier's Jira ticket gets its last chase date updated to current timestamp, and the node goes back to the beginning of the loop. This makes the workflow ready for new scheduled trigger execution. Now we are ready to demonstrate the execution of Step 2 workflow. First, let's review the Step 1 Jira tickets setup in the Jira dashboard. We see all 3 tickets are in awaiting response status. To demonstrate the different AI-generated follow-up emails with different chasing tones, I set the second ticket to XYZ company to be past due. The other 2 companies are within deadline, so they will receive a softer tone chaser email. We now kick off the workflow in n8n. You can see, given the process is already activated, the workflow proceeds to find the Step 1 tickets that are in awaiting response status. Since in the setup, 2 of the suppliers are within deadline and 1 is past due, one of the chaser emails is sent through the demanding tone branch, while the other 2 loop through the soft tone side of the branch. Let's wait for the workflow execution to be completed. We now check how the chaser emails look like. Given one of the chaser emails is sent with demanding tone, I will be CC'd on that email. So let's check out how it looks like in my Gmail account. Indeed, we see the email was drafted with a more demanding and urgent tone, highlighting the supplier is already past the deadline. Note in the Jira dashboard, the overdue ticket is the second ticket that we pre-configured. The demanding email is sent to the supplier email address in the external email field of the ticket. You can also see in the expected due date field, the second ticket has an earlier due date than the other 2 tickets. Now let's see if the email in my Gmail account is addressed to the right person consistent with the Jira ticket setup, and indeed they match. Let's also check out separately how the soft tone of the chasing email looks like. I switched to a different Gmail account. Here you can see the language is more polite and less urgent, which is what the AI email node is instructed to do. Only the supplier is receiving this chaser, and I, as the company contact, is not CC'd in this chaser. So Step 2 workflow is working consistently with how it is designed to be. We will do a quick recap of what we have covered so far in the video. We reviewed Step 1 and 2 out of the 5 major steps involved in a quarterly request for quote process from a hypothetical company. Rather than relying on a manual-centric and resource-intensive process, we developed a streamlined process leveraging automated workflows built in the n8n platform. In Part 2 portion of the video, we will further explain how to set up the next 3 steps of the process with streamlined workflows. Supplier quote review and best offer comparative analysis, scheduling management review meeting minutes review and other documentation archiving. The steps that currently heavily rely on human intervention can all benefit from AI and workflow automation. Leave feedback in the comments section on how you would suggest further enhancement to this demo or any other idea you would like to see a demo for.
See you next time! Wow!